Welcome to Empowered Kids TV Village Talk. I am so excited to have you here. You're here because you know that every family has the potential to be great, and you're willing to push the boundaries of your mindset so that you can create the family of your dreams. Today, we welcome back the amazing Sue DeCaro. Sue, welcome back to the village.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here again.
If you haven't seen Sue before, be sure to check out our previous episodes, and I'd like to introduce you to her. Sue DeCaro is a certified parent coach and an educator focused on conscious living and loving. She is a public speaker, a writer, and a trainer. Along with her extensive training, Sue was able to take the challenges she experienced years ago raising her own two daughters to help transform relationships between parents and their children in her coaching practice that spans the globe. As founder of DeCaro Parent Coaching, a private practice supporting parents worldwide, Sue integrates education, consciousness, and coaching to help families grow and to thrive. Sue's training as a parent coach, combined with experiences in her own family, enables her to really support every client with empathy and to craft solutions that are tailored to your specific goals. Be sure to check Sue out and all her amazing work at decaroparentcoaching.com. Okay, Sue, let's get into today's question.
Excellent.
Today's question comes from Sandra. And Sandra writes, I don't know what to do anymore. My 16-year-old daughter failed out of her private school and is now in a transfer school. Her dad took her phone away because she was missing classes, which she knew would be the consequence, and I was in agreement. However, it resulted in him having to physically wrestle the phone away from her, and her yelling, but then he started yelling too, responding to her as if it was two kids fighting. I told him repeatedly to stop responding to her in that way, but he kept going on. While this was happening, I said, you're acting like a child. This is not right. Stop yelling. I was trying to calm it all down. He saw this as me taking her side and taking his authority away and giving her permission to not listen to him. I tried to get him to see that he was just out of control, just like she was. In the end, nothing was accomplished. I don't know what to do now. Please, any advice? That's really tough, Sue.
It's very tough. And it really sounds like Sandra is asking more about the work between she and her husband,
Yes.
the father,
Yeah.
and not really about how to respond or how to manage the daughter.
Yeah.
So, and parenting is really a challenge for many couples, many partnerships, real challenge, because again, as we've spoken before in previous episodes, we come to parenting with our own conditioning.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And perhaps we grew up in an environment where yelling was the way of it. Whether it worked or it didn't work, if our parents were yellers and screamers, then we think that's how parenting is, because what else do we have to
fall back
as
on?
A beautiful example, right? So this is, I grew up in an environment where my mother did yell. Yeah. And so that was what I thought was appropriate too, or just the way of it. I didn't even think, well, was there another way? I just had no idea. So perhaps, in this particular situation, I think one of the things that we've talked about before as well is fear comes up. When our children are not doing well in school or flunking out of school, and we've set a boundary or parameter, which, 99% of the time it's the electronics, because we know how important they are to our children.
Yeah.
Technology is it, and yet it's their lifeline. It's their lifeline. I used to take my kids' technology away all the time, the cell phone. I actually have had to forcibly get the phone. But looking back on these days and now having a little more wisdom than I had when I was knee deep into these types of situations, I think one of the hardest things, and what may have created, this blow up, this experience, is that your daughter needs her lifeline. And, it's not for me to say whether that's right or wrong, but that's why a child may get so physically attached when you go to take it away, even if they've agreed to it, is because here goes their lifeline, their ability to connect with the outer world, which at 16, at 12, at 18,
Really
at my
important.
age, which I will not disclose, becomes a really important process. I mean, especially 16, so many things are changing, and they're independent, but they're dependent, and they're struggling between the two. So from your daughter's standpoint, that was probably where the need came to physically try to hold on to that apparatus. And yet from a boundary standpoint, perhaps your husband felt so firmly connected to the boundary in that moment that there was no other moment. This is the only moment there is to take that phone physically. And it's very hard to watch, very hard. And as you and I have talked about, Nicole, I think one of the key factors here is that when we are in that hyperreactive state, I like to call it, where we're knee deep in tension and conflict with our child or with anyone in the world, it really doesn't matter who it is. That is not a time of logic or ability to hear what anyone is suggesting or recommending. It just sends us into a higher level of hyperreactivity. So if your daughter's hyperreactive, in that higher state, and your husband is joining her there, anything that you say to either one of them as the third party in the room is going to escalate what's already going on. So, it's in my experience, if I'm really upset about something and I'm going on and maybe I'm pretty hyperreactive, there are occasions, I know it's hard to believe, and somebody says, calm down. I mean, that's like taking a match and igniting it.
Yep.
And it doesn't sound like it should be.
Yes.
But those words, calm down. So think for yourself, if you feel that tension, what calm down might mean to you. And that's how we have to look at these situations. Yes, we want to put the fire out because, number one, it is overwhelming to watch these things going on. And we worry sometimes that people might hurt each other. But at the same time, stepping in is not going to work for either party. So my suggestion would be to take a step back. Sometimes we want to step forward. In these cases, take a step back. If you weren't home to experience this, you wouldn't be there. And they would survive it, I'm pretty sure. And so take a step back and allow the process to unfold and visit it at a moment where you can have calmness and clarity from yourself, where you're not knee-deep listening to explosion, and also from your significant other, your spouse, your partner, where they're not knee-deep trying to control the situation. And that way you seem to agree on the boundary, which I think is something to highlight here. You both came to the boundary agreeing that it was the right thing. Enforcing it is not the same as having a boundary. How we enforce it can be the difficult part. And so come together to have that conversation about what could have happened differently. How could we have come about this? You can certainly ask your partner, wow, did that go as you expected? Come from a place of curiosity, not criticism. That looked really difficult for you because who knows, we may have reacted the same way if we were starting this conversation and we got drawn in by the child who wanted their lifeline. Their lifeline.
I love that, Sue, and I think what really parents forget is that we all just need to feel safe in that moment. Everybody just needs, because everybody's in hyper alert, which is every part of your body saying I'm not safe, even though you're not really being attacked. Everything is saying I'm not safe. And for me, if I can't bring safety to the situation, you're absolutely right. The next best thing is to take a step back. Because anything else I add is fuel, which is what she's experienced, right? Because now instead of just a dynamic between the father and the daughter, now we're all in this dynamic of not agreeing. I love the part of having a conversation. So the event has happened, and it is, and I think bringing acceptance to the fact that it is what it is, you can't undo it, is a big step. But recognizing that it's not the end of the world, nothing's set in stone, and you can still have a conversation, a very open and honest, and as you said, non-critical conversation. Keep that mode of let's be safe, and really just ask, I think, is this how you wanted it to go? That was such a powerful question that you asked, and and in a genuine way, not in a, is this what you wanted? Yeah.
Right.
But really in a genuine way, because I can see how easy it is for this to have been flipped. Even though as a mom you would say, this is not what I want, but you can get so drawn in the moment, feeling like as a parent you've lost all semblance of control, and you can see your daughter moving towards an area that you think is dangerous, and you're trying to pull her back with all your might. It's easy to get wrapped up in it, with the best will in the world. So I think just applying some compassion to themselves, mom to herself, and then mom to dad, to say, you know what, it's okay. And then the next thing I would add here is to probably go back and look at that 16-year-old. I get that they've instilled some boundaries and that they do agree, but clearly something is happening with her in a school environment where she doesn't feel like this is a space that I fit into. And it's probably worth, again, having that very open, honest conversation with her. She's 16, to say, what is really going on here? What is bothering you? Because for a lot of kids, there are so many things that they don't come home with. Sometimes it might actually be bullying. Sometimes it's things that severe, that just, this isn't a space. Sometimes it's just that I don't feel like I fit in. And
Huge.
It's huge. And if we, and you've said this in one of our previous episodes, if we begin setting boundaries without really recognizing what's going on beneath, we don't know where we're setting boundaries versus, is it helping? Is it hurting?
Right.
And so I think that conversation, both ways, conversation with parent to parent, to say, let's just be kind to each other and let's see how we can continue to support each other, and parent to child, to say, let's really try to understand and see how we can help, rather than see how we can force you to do it the way we think we should. Yeah?
May I add one more thing? I think one of the really important factors, too, for parents is to own their own behavior. And so it wouldn't be a bad idea, Sandra, for you and your husband to come together with your daughter, and as you're going to have an open conversation about your daughter and how you can best support her and help her through whatever's going on, to own what happened. You know, we're really sorry that we got so emotionally wrapped up in the boundary and not what was going on with you, and connecting to that piece of it, because we are the models for our children.
Yes.
And when we show a sense of ownership, or as we've said in a previous conversation, fault for whatever is happening, we're setting the stage for them to learn as well and take ownership for their own actions.
And I love that, because I think that says to a child, I respect you. I respect you enough to let you know this isn't the way I wanted to show up, and I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, and I will work to do better next. Because that's what we want from our kids, right? We want our kids to be able to come back when they've stepped out of how they think they should show up, to be able to come back and take ownership and take responsibility for it. And I like telling my kids especially, responsibility means the ability to respond. It doesn't have to be fault. So fault is so heavy, so heavy. But if you think of it as the ability to respond, do you have the ability to respond in this moment, to do something differently of what you did before? And that changes the focus. Fault and blame just takes us down the wrong street. So I really love that. Okay, I'm going to try to go back and just really focus on the tips, because it's all about action for Sandra. So the first thing you had was to really recognize the fear that's coming up. The fear that's coming up for everyone involved. To call it out. To sit down and have those open, very vulnerable, very honest conversations about what we wanted versus what happened. To take ownership where we can for our own actions. And to really just say, okay, how did I show up versus how I wanted to show up, and what can I do differently? And also to have a very honest and team-like conversation with their daughter about what's really going on. How can we help? Because every child just really wants to be great. No child just decides, my goal is to see if I can flunk out of school. They don't. Every child really just wants to shine, both for themselves and for their parents. And when something blocks that, That's what we need to figure out, what's really blocking that. So I think an open, honest conversation would really go a long way to supporting this family. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Sue?
Children are so much a part of the solution. I think that's the key, is allow our children to be part of the solution. They are not the problem. There is no problem without a team.
Yeah.
And a team works together, as well as we all contribute and allow one another to be part of the answers, the solutions to whatever life throws at us.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sue, for joining us again today on The Village.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I want to remind everyone, please dive into Sue's work. You will love it. It will make a paradigm shift in the way you approach your parenting. You can find Sue at DeCaroParentCoaching.com. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We're all about sharing and supporting this village. So if you found value in this episode, be sure to share it with your family and friends. And remember, this is a weekly show. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you'll be notified of our next episode. As we always say in the village, you're just one connection away. With love and gratitude, empower us. Until next time.